I consider myself very, very fortunate in the time that I grew up. I grew up in a time where our storytellers were so impactful on our lives then. And as we get older, that term, you have an old soul, makes even more sense. And I'm thankful that I lasted so long on this planet to be able to recognize just how much of an impact they had on my life, whether it was direct or indirect. But it seems the amount of respect for them has dwindled to where it is damn near non-existent. And those are our grandparents. It's so easy to be caught up in the now and not care about the then. And it is sad because all of those things is how we came to be. It's easy to claim hardship. Your rights are being so violated. The amount of disrespect when you truly don't understand. We can claim all day, every day about the reparations, the trials and tribulations, when the majority of us have never even fully experienced it, or not even on the level of those. My childhood growing up, I was deeply connected. And I love you and I miss you both. To my grandma and my grandpa. My great-grandma was still alive, and most of my memories of her was being in that house with that old wood stove, and it can be 90 degrees outside and she's still talking about put another piece of wood in that motherfucker or add some splinter to it because she's getting cold. Or she would have her little can of snuff, that old little silver tin can with the blue label wrapped around it. I know y'all know what I'm talking about. I know some of y'all got to know what I'm talking about. I didn't know what the hell that was, but I know she put a little bit in her motherfucking jar, and then she had a little spit cup on the side with a little tissue in it. Didn't know the purpose, but that was what Mama did. Right. My great grandma was Mama. My grandmother was Mother. And my own mama was Mama. I don't know where they came with that analogy, how they came up with it, but that's just what they called them. And then my grandfather, he was my grandfather. But all of that interactions that I had with them is not here. The us of today don't give a fuck. A lot of them don't give a fuck. They don't care to hear stories. They don't care to spend time with them. They see it as a chore, a hassle. When this is the closest you can get to your ancestors in the flesh right here in front of you. You can just spend a little time out of your day. You can ask questions. You can find out what it really was like and not the propaganda bullshit that is shown on TV. People who've never been through the struggle out there being the leaders of these organizations, fighting for rights when you don't fully understand the rights that you are fighting for. Because they don't have that. It's not a concern to them. Oh, that was then, but this is now. But you want to have those offerings, those blessings from those that actually went through the shit back then, now, just because you was born. That is not a right. That is not a right. My love of music, of the oldies, came from my grandparents, from the Platters, the Temptations, Percy Sledge. There's so many, Otis Redding. I could continue on, and I still listen to those songs to this day, and I have those memories of those hard times and the good times. Hell, I am past 40, and I just realized that back in the fucking 80s to the 90s, I was blanching. I didn't know what the fuck that was. I don't even know if my grandparents knew the proper term for it, but it was something that they did. Now I'm going to tell y'all what blanching is. Blanching is where you either take raw or partially cooked, beans and sort, put them in water and you put them in the freezer. Yeah, that sounds all nice and dandy, but not the memories that I had. Because back then, we had those tall bushel baskets. Those tall wooden bushel baskets, and those motherfuckers was filled to the brim with string beans, butter beans, and you're sitting there and you're shelling with your big old silver pan. Oh, and don't think there was only one of them motherfuckers. No, because you had to shell them for your grandma and your mama, and maybe some of your damn aunties. But it was a part of growing up, and it strengthened our bond and our connection. My grandmother was the one that taught me how to drive, because my mother, unfortunately, had seizures, and she still has seizures to this day. And she wasn't able to get her license. So it was my grandma. I was riding shotgun with my grandma. I even went to work with her one time. I even got my grandma a speeding ticket because we were coming from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina in the Conway. And before you get to that bridge, for those of you who might know about that area, and I wanted my grandma to go fast. So my grandma went fast. And next thing you know, damn police was pulling us over. I wasn't yelled at or nothing like that. But those are my precious memories. I saw what they had to go through. The picking of tobacco. The trying to have to be humble at certain times, because shit was still racist as fucking South Carolina. It's still racist now, but shit, growing up in the motherfucking 80s, your parents would tell you where not to go. Your grandparents would, don't mess around with them people's yard. Don't be out over there. It wasn't them being rude or being overprotective. They were warning you because they had already experienced the shit firsthand. First fucking hand. But you know something else that they had? I didn't say I went to my grandma's apartment. I was at my grandma's house. My great-grandma's house. They had a home. It was built. It was built. And that woman worked all the way up into her 70s. All the way up into her 70s. My grandmother, she cleaned houses. And those people loved her. They bought her a new car. I would go there at times. Great, wholesome people. Because it showed that all of the world is not that bad. People of different color can communicate. We can work for and with each other, and it don't be that hierarchy bullshit that, oh, I am better than you. I am the superior race. That is what a lot of that taught me, but I did not understand. But it's because I experienced that, because I was there that even once I became an adult, I made sure I visited my grandmother whenever I came home. My grandfather, he passed when I was 5. But those memories and those times for him, because, down south, a lot of us, they had gardens. So back a ways behind my grandmother's house, there was a garden back there. There was some hogs. And we had a chicken coop. We had a grapevine. So I have fond memories of my grandfather protecting me from trouble. He had to get one leg amputated, so he was in a wheelchair. So I would walk with him, and we'd go get some cucumbers and so forth. And I wasn't bothered. And even as I got older, and once he passed, because I did not realize what that meant, but I still remember to this day him lying in that coffin, dressed in all white, and me trying to move his hands because I did not understand. And it wasn't until I understood death. And now that both of them are gone, and I see so many people not giving a fuck, I've even seen on the news and the reports of acts of violence against the elderly, and it is so disgusting. It is like some of the worst punishment in the fucking world should be bestowed on those people who act out against those. Because they are the ones who made a fucking way, a path for the shit that we are allowed to do, even within our own limits. So, those storytellers, those people that it don't take nothing at all to show them some love, some appreciation. Even if they can't tell you the fucking story right, you still ask them. Even if they repeat the same thing every single day, every single time you fucking see them, you still make that effort. You still can put some forth in. You should look at them and be like, so this is where I came from. Because we are not from this fucking country. Get that shit in your fucking heads. We are not. So whatever history we have, it starts with those that are still alive, that we can really communicate, get to know. But it seems it is so easy. It is a better choice to not be that. To be something different. To try to be so much like someone else. To mimic and continue to mimic so many things when we lose our own identity. Anytime I listen to the oldies, my mind goes right back to my grandma, my grandpa. When I see the elderly out and about, and when I see the people who still have their grandparents in their lives, I get a little sad at times. I get a little sad. And what's even sadder is that until I became awoken, I was not praying. I was not honoring the way that I should to my grateful storytellers. I wasn't. I remember when my grandmother passed. This was in 2009, and we are now in 2022. Something had me go home because she was in the hospital, and it hurt. It hurt me so bad because this was a woman that I had never seen so weak in my entire life, that I did not want to go into that hospital room. It hurt the fact that a little bit during the conversation she did not and was not able to recognize who I was. But I still sat there in that Georgetown hospital. I remember things as clear as day. I got me some Chinese food. Now, I don't know what this Chinese food is going on today, but the Chinese food back in my day, the egg already came in it. And that shit pissed me off today, because up here, that shit be like 75 cents, $1, $1.25 per egg. And I'm sorry I'm going on that tangent, but that shit does piss me the fuck off, but it's what it is. But I sat there, and some of her memory did start to come back, and she still remembered me. But just watching such a strong woman that gave me so much power, who impacted so much in my life. And there were times where it was some scary shit, but my grandmother was a G. My grandmother was a damn gangster. She had a little old 22. She had a shotgun in the corner of her bedroom. My grandmother did not motherfucking play. There was a time where we was riding at night on them old country roads where they don't have all of these street lights and shit. I remember my grandmother hit a deer. She hit a motherfucking deer. And you know what my grandmother did? That motherfucker fucked up the grill of the car. My grandmother, she made a call or some shit. And next thing you know, that motherfucking deer was in the back of the motherfucking car. Now, I can't stand deer meat. I absolutely cannot fucking stand it. I tried it. I don't get the whole thing of it. Me, I'm a coon person. And yes, it is exactly what the fuck you think it is. But shit's delicious. Shit's delicious. You get it all cooked up, put some onions in it, put it in that old iron skillet, and you put it in the oven. Not too long, because the onions can make it spoil. But that strong woman that I saw, so weak in that bed, was something that I don't want anyone to experience. But I'm happy that I was able to. I was able to know where I came from, where my mother came from, why my mother did certain things, why she didn't, why she was able to and not able to. Know more about my uncles, my aunties, my other cousins. Because those people was a product of what they lived for. The heartaches, the joys, all of that was wrapped up in these people. And I came home. And that next day, I got a phone call. I got a phone call in the afternoon, and I remember looking at the phone, and I did not want to answer the phone. I really, truly did not want to answer that phone. And it was my mother. It was my mama. And she was like, Aaron, mother gone. And it hurt. It was something that I didn't want to come to terms with. It made me wish I had seen her more, that I didn't beat around the bush to come home. But not once did I hate what she represented. How both of them impacted my life. Because they used to argue. Oh my goodness. My grandmother and my grandfather. Holy shit. And and if she wanted to do something, give him a little half a pint, he'd do whatever he could do. He had one leg, but he still could do shit. But that is gone. We are truly losing ourselves in anything that is being tied to this world, that we can give that knowledge to our children, to where they aren't too busy running from who we are, how we came to be. while the world would love to make it seem like it never existed, that it still isn't happening today, or the worst of all, that it wasn't as bad as some people may think it is. The whole thought of you oppressing people because of their skin color. There was a law to where two people of different skin colors could not marry. They lived through that. Those being born in the 30s, 20s, the 40s who are still here, who were able to reach that 70s, 80s, 90s. For you, I thank you. Thank you for carrying on. And even though all of your ways might not have been right, you did what you had to. You survived. You kept that torch going. You kept our bloodline moving. You were that person. You were that person that many can look back on and think, wow, she did all this for me. She did that for us. My grandmother made sure that anytime I came home, I had to let her know when I was coming home and what the hell I wanted to cook so she could cook it. Whether I wanted me some hog maw with some rice, with some cornbread on the side, with some Texas Pete hot sauce. I wanted me some sweet peas with some rice and some neck bones. Whatever I wanted, and I had my favorite dishes. I can't anymore. And it hurts. But I will always keep those memories. I am who I am today because of her and him and her and all of you. Though I may never meet you, I may never get that opportunity to see you in the flesh, your will still resides within me. And I will pass that on. I will pass on all of those teachings, whatever messages those want to give me to pass on, I will gladly do it. And for the grandparents on the side that I never got to know, I never got to meet, it's okay. You can come forth too. I'm willing to listen. I'm not holding any more grudges. What is done is done. Amen.